When I was a student, I dreamed of being an animal rights terrorist. I wanted to break the beagles out of the science lab on campus, where they were being used in experiments. I thought of student radicals as noble rebels, crusading against the indifference of mainstream society. I'm Janice Fiamengo of the University of Ottawa. What a letdown it's been over the last few years to see some student radicals in the flesh. Maybe men's issues discussions bring out the worst of the lot, but certainly the anti-male protesters I've seen recently have been a pretty sad bunch. Now, everybody expects student radicals to flout the law occasionally, selectively, like Rosa Parks refusing to give up her bus seat to a white person. The principle is that you peacefully break a bad law, risking arrest for that, as happened to Parks, and in the process you show your society that the law is bad and you're willing to sacrifice your comfort for a larger good, in this case, the good of racial equality. But with the student protesters I've seen, it's as if Rosa Parks had thrown whites off the bus and threatened to drive over them if her vision was not immediately implemented. The tactics are aggressive and pointless.
Stop Warren Farrell! Stop Warren Farrell!
So-called men's rights groups are actually hate groups.
No hate speech on campus!
It's hard to see the righteousness in blocking the doors of a building where students and others in the community are trying to hear a speaker.
No violence!
It's hard to see that as admirable, no matter how you spin the subject being discussed, and they do spin the subject. On top of that, those creepy masks they wear, they make them seem like bandits or cowards. Are they not bold in their advocacy? And I thought student radicals were supposed to be interested in ideas. These ones aren't. They don't debate or discuss.
We're not super interested in talking to you, first of all, but basically we're here to shut down an event that is promoting the patriarchy.
They ridicule.
You're doing it really well. Good job.
They chant slogans.
Anti-patriarcat!
Their idea of agitprop never gets beyond verbal abuse and physical intimidation, utterly devoid of wit, insight, or intellectual substance.
You are fucking scum. Fucking rape apologist, incest-supporting, woman-hating fucking scum.
They seem unable to articulate a single sentence without obscenities.
Tell them not to fucking do that. The law's favoring these fuckers.
Listen.
And perhaps most disturbing of all, given that these are student radicals, in the cases I've seen, they haven't got a clue what they're demonstrating against. One of the groups that I now expect to see at events sponsored by the Canadian Association for Equality is the revolutionary student movement. Now first, for those of you who don't know, the Canadian Association for Equality is a registered charity that provides men's support services and that advocates for social equality and equal treatment under the law. A year ago, the Canadian Association for Equality opened the Canadian Centre for Men and Families in Toronto, which provides counseling and workshops on men's experiences of sexual abuse, violence, suicide prevention, and legal aid. They also sponsor talks to raise awareness about men's lives. The revolutionary student movement, of course, declares CAFE a hate group. They don't bring forward a single piece of evidence to say why, because, of course, they can't find a single piece of evidence. But that's business as usual for our revolutionary students, who give off a lot more heat than light. Undeterred by the fact that communism has been an abject failure everywhere it has been tried and has spawned almost inconceivable levels of repression and human misery in every society organized on Marxist principles, this group aims to overthrow capitalism to bring about a reign of peace and plenty. And to do that, it's necessary to stop people from having forbidden conversations. This was the group that shut down my talk in Ottawa 2 years ago on rape culture. The point I had planned to make was that exaggerating the likelihood of a woman's being raped on a university campus and pretending that our culture condones rape in any way are damaging ideas, damaging to both men and women, leading to women's irrational fear and unjust hatred of men. But the revolutionary students didn't want to hear one word of that, characterizing it in advance as hate speech. So they blew their horns and banged their drums and sang the Communist Internationale.
Every time you interrupt, you're merely showing your repressive tendencies. You're not showing anything about your virtue.
The event organizers and security personnel pleaded with them to allow the talk to proceed, suggesting that they could ask devastatingly good questions afterwards to make their point. What do you bet? Finally, the event was moved to another room, and when we tried to proceed, somebody pulled the fire alarm.
Sir, there's a fire alarm. You have to leave now.
Oh, that's nice talking.
Is that a fire alarm?
Okay. This is,
Get out. Get out.
I'm sure it wasn't a member of the revolutionary student movement. 2 years later, here they were again for a talk by former McGill University professor Paul Nathanson, a religious studies scholar and author of 4 books on men in society, including the voluminous and meticulously documented work Legalizing Misandry. This time, our friends showed their commitment to the people's struggle by blocking the one entrance to the room so that those students and others wanting to attend the talk couldn't get in, and those already inside the room setting up were stuck there. What a blow for justice. As usual, security personnel couldn't convince them to budge, but when the police arrived, their revolutionary fervor evaporated, and after what seemed a brief football-style huddle, they went meekly down the stairs and into the night. They're now complaining on their Facebook page about the, quote, illegitimate repressive force used against, quote, non-violent student protesters. Come on, guys, we've got the whole thing on film. There was no repressive force. The police came and told you that they'd arrest you for breaking the law, which you were doing, and you scattered pronto. I don't blame you for scattering, but I do kind of blame you for lying about it. I wonder if our not-so-brave crusaders had even a moment's qualm about attempting to prevent the talk of a gay man who has spent his academic career collaborating with a feminist scholar, Catherine Young, to document the legal and social position of men in contemporary culture. Might it have passed through their minds that Paul Nathanson has something of value to offer to men and women, gay and straight, who are thinking about the meanings of masculinity in modern North America? Well, of course not, because they don't even know who Paul Nathanson is. I am confident that not a single one of them has ever read a word he's written. They don't even mention him on their Facebook page calling for the protest. You'd think that if you were calling people to protest a talk supposedly promoting, quote, misogyny, anti-feminism, and rape culture, as they alleged, you'd at least say who it was that was promoting it and what he was known to have said that was misogynist. If they'd scoured his books, they'd have been unable to find anything misogynist, but they're so busy trying to prevent any discussion that doesn't toe their Marxist feminist line that they don't have time for bourgeois pursuits like reading or thinking. We expect we'll see the protesters again one day, and though we think their time might be better spent addressing real problems in society of the sort CAFE deals with, problems of Homelessness, for example, suicide, inequitable treatment under the law, all issues that affect men disproportionately. Still, we suspect the students will continue to inconvenience and harass others, accomplishing nothing by their actions. Actually, they do accomplish one thing. They make our point for us, that we live in a society in which it's cool to attack the free speech rights of non-feminists who simply want to discuss men's problems. We know that if there were a feminist group, or any group for that matter, talking about women's lives that was being constantly disrupted, the protesters would have been hauled away in a paddy wagon at the first sign of incalcitrance. So congratulations, students. You're fully part of the establishment, mainstream. You're on a path blazed by other bigots decades ago, and you acknowledge that by the very fact that you don't even feel the need to read the authors you're protesting to know what you're supposed to say and do about them. You're utterly predictable, sloganizing followers of authority, and there's nothing revolutionary about that. Here at Studio Brulé, we're going to run a pilot for a potential series on student responses to topics covered in the Fiamengo file. Its working title is Campus Thought, or Campus Response. The series would use clips provided by viewers like you who are willing to collaborate with us by going to campus and talking to students on film about a topic we'll provide. The initial topic is, should men's groups be allowed to form on university campuses? Why or why not? Interested participants can send their clips directly to Studio Brulé, contact information below. Studio Brulé will present a compilation of selected clips with collaborators given full credit. Feel free to leave comments or suggestions below this video.